Goosebumps is directed by Rob Letterman and stars Jack Black as R.L. Stein, the writer of the extremely popular Goosebumps series that was launched in the 90s and I myself grew up reading. If you look behind me, you can see just a little bit of my collection. I do have every single book, the original cover, not the reprints. Yeah. I'll talk a little bit more about why Goosebumps is important to me after I describe the plot of this movie. A kid and his mom move to a new city, there's a girl next door, and a very creepy father who happens to be R.L. Stein. And as these two kids and a new friend are getting to know each other, they accidentally open one of R.L. Stein's Goosebumps manuscripts, unleashing the creature of that book, Slappy the Dummy. And he goes around and lets loose the monsters and creatures from all of R.L. Stein's other books, and they wreak havoc on this tiny town, and they have to try to survive the night and figure out how to get all these characters back into their manuscripts again. Goosebumps is important to me because it actually is the book series that got me into reading in the first place. It also got me into writing. I have still some of my old colored pencil cover designs for my own Goosebumps books that I wanted to make when I was a kid. I even attempted to write some of my own. They were terrible and atrocious, and sometimes I like to read them to remind myself of who I am. But they got me into reading and writing, and that's my point I'm trying to make, and they did that for millions of other kids as well. They weren't just creepy, scary books that kids could kill time reading. They actually inspired an entire generation to appreciate writing and reading. I went into this movie expecting it to be terrible, to be honest. I wasn't fanboying over Goosebumps. I grew up watching the original TV show as well, which by the way is on Netflix in its entirety, and I still sometimes watch to this day just for the nostalgic fun of it. But I wasn't fanboying going into this movie because it's from the directors of Gulliver's Travels, also starring Jack Black, which was terrible, and strangely enough there's a scene where Jack Black gets tied down by little gnomes in this movie, very similar to Gulliver's Travels. But I was surprised by this movie, specifically its energy. This is a fast-paced movie. It's a movie that's very quick. It's a movie that feels like it flows very fast. There's never a dull moment in this movie, and sometimes that can get a little much because it just keeps going and going and going, but that fast-paced feel of this movie reflects the novels as well, because when I was a kid, I could never put these things down. From chapter to chapter, I was constantly invested, and this movie maintains that fast-paced flow, as well as just the fun of a creepy night filled with monsters, ghouls, and ventriloquist dummies. You feel that vibe. You feel that Halloween, scary October vibe. This is the perfect time for this movie to come out, and it is a very fun, scary movie for families and kids to enjoy. It's a movie that kids can enjoy and have fun with and hopefully get into reading the books, and the adults aren't going to hate themselves because there's plenty of fun sequences to keep you interested, and if you were a fan of the books like I was growing up, you're going to have a ton of fun seeing some of these characters brought to life. Speaking of bringing these characters to life, that brings me to one of my biggest negatives in this movie, the CGI. My favorite Goosebumps book of all time, as well as my favorite Goosebumps episode of all time, was The Werewolf of Fever Swamp. And The Werewolf of Fever Swamp looks like Sci-Fi Channel original movie, unfortunately. Some of the CGI just is not well incorporated with the live action. It doesn't look as if it fits within this world. I love Slappy in this movie though, because he is a practical real-life dummy. He was great. The Abominable Snowman of Pasadena was slightly better than the Werewolf of Fever Swamp in regards to the way it looks, but there isn't really a shot that doesn't feel as if it's cartoony whenever the CGI creatures are on the screen. But let's talk about the characters. For one, I really like the main kid in the film, and I like the girl that he got interested in. They were both very good. You might recognize him from Prisoners. Very good performance in that movie, and he carries over well to this more lighthearted fare. I also really enjoyed Jack Black as R.L. Stein. I think he added a lot to the character. He was cold and dark, but he was funny in just the right ways. Now, there's a couple in-jokes in this movie. Now, one of them may have just been me. I don't know, but it seems like too much of a coincidence to ignore. Now, as I said, Jack Black portrays R.L. Stein in this movie, but for a while he goes by the alias of Mr. Shivers. Now, in the 90s growing up, there was another book series called Shivers that was kind of like the dollar store version of Goosebumps. I read them, I loved them as a kid, they got me into reading as well, but it is possible that Stein was like, hey, why don't you make the fake name of mine be Mr. Shivers, because Shivers ripped off my books back in the day. This is possible. I may be looking too much into this, it could just be me, but to me, I felt like that was just a slight jab at the Shivers series. And the second one is sort of a spoiler, but it's not really a spoiler, so I just want to let you know, skip ahead to this time if you don't want to know about a cameo that takes place in the film. Okay, so there's a cameo in the movie and it's R.L. Stein, and he very briefly portrays the drama teacher. How hilarious is that? If you guys watched the original Goosebumps TV show, whenever he would introduce the episodes, it became very notorious that he's a horrible actor. I just think it's very funny that he portrayed the drama teacher. All in all though, guys, Goosebumps is a fun movie that families can enjoy. There are some storytelling issues, there are some scenes that simply don't make any sense, and some of the CGI is very questionable, but as someone who grew up appreciating Goosebumps, and as someone who also likes the fact that this movie could get other kids into reading as well, just like the original book series did for me, I'm gonna give Goosebumps a B. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching, and I got a question for you. If you guys grew up reading Goosebumps, what was your favorite book in the series? Thank you so much once again for watching, guys, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.